Everyday Feminism will likely shut down. Hey, it's Prince of Queens. And who called it? I did. That's right, motherfuckers. I have been waiting for over 7 months to make this video as I knew it was inevitable. Everyday Feminism, the world's most widely circulated intersectional feminist blog with a seeming endless wealth of gender baiting, race baiting, paranoia inducing, regressive articles, and at least at one point a mammoth pool of around 40 or so contributing authors. Everyday Feminism, the behemoth of feminist propaganda blogs, seems to be having trouble making ends meet financially, and they are calling for their fans to raise money for them or they will be thrown into the trash like Cat Black's braided extensions from last week or month. Maybe Cat Black is facing budget cuts similar to the blog she's written for, so she won't be able to afford to change her hair so often. Now, if you've been tuned into my channel for a while, you'll know not only that I just fucking hate this blog, Everyday Feminism, more than basically any other entity on the entire internet, but really, who doesn't? More so, I love a good conspiracy theory, and the big conspiracy theory I was always pushing on my channel is that the entirety of fourth wave feminism was designed basically to put Hillary Clinton into office. I have numerous videos where I talk about that, and one of the cornerstones in that theory was the idea that the blog Everyday Feminism, which mysteriously appeared onto the scene in 2012 and became the most widely circulated feminist blog on the entire internet seemingly overnight. My theory was that Everyday Feminism was paid for and promoted by Democratic Party Incorporated, Clinton Incorporated, Soros, Media Matters, you know, all those corporate regressive Democrat type fuckers who always seem to be colluding with each other to influence media. It seemed like this blog in particular was not just influenced heavily by those corporate political entities, but rather it was seemingly conceived by them. I always thought something about the blog was pretty fishy ever since they started claiming that gay men have male privilege and that gay men should learn to find ways to be better allies to the women in our lives, as if women are fighting some sort of war and they need to enlist help from gay men. I also remembered at some point looking and seeing old articles from Everyday Feminism where they praised Hillary Clinton, but those mysteriously vanished and I could never find archives of them. But the thing that really inspired me to believe that this blog was basically crooked and being paid for to push propaganda by politicians was this particular panel of a comic where they depict people at a Sanders rally as if they are a bunch of screaming racists. As you can see by the fact that the caption says things like, "All lives matter, go home thugs," or "shut up thugs," or fucking whatever. They also say, "get off the stage, monkeys." You can tell that that means that they are obviously referring to the Black Lives Matter interruption in Seattle. However, this depiction of a bunch of white racists in the comic was completely inaccurate, because if you actually watch the footage from the interruption, you'll see that the relentlessly PC Seattle Sanders crowd was actually mostly cheering for the Black Lives Matter idiots. Furthermore, the comic that this appeared in was supposedly criticizing Trump, and while they couldn't help but to insert this completely factually inaccurate stab at Bernie Sanders supporters where they acted like they were a bunch of racists, at no point did they ever mention anything about Clinton's supporters. And truthfully, I don't ever remember the blog mentioning much about Clinton directly during this election. Instead, it opted for blatant stabs at Trump and subtle stabs at Sanders. The blog itself, like basically every other quote-unquote intersectional feminist blog claimed that they did not support any candidate, which, let's face it, was basically just code for all of our staff knows that Sanders is the more progressive candidate that we and our readers generally prefer to Clinton, but we aren't allowed to endorse him because the corporate office wants Clinton to win. And I say that not simply because I am guessing. I actually used to be friends with somebody who worked as one of the editors of the blog Everyday Feminism, who admitted to me privately that she was going to vote for Sanders, but that she couldn't say so publicly. That said, Hillary Clinton would have been, of course, the biggest single beneficiary of a social media aged push of feminism onto the masses. And Everyday Feminism, again, is a blog that exploded into being all over the entire internet in 2012 when it was created, which was probably non-coincidentally the year that Obama quietly passed a bill legalizing the usage of propaganda on the American public. Or, in other words, there was a legal precedent that made it so that the ruling party in Washington, the Democrats, could legally push propaganda on the American public to influence elections, which was put into place the same year that this blog was conceived. It's almost as if they passed the bill legalizing propaganda with this blog in mind. Maybe other things too. That all said, I knew in my heart that this blog was directly political in motivation and I assumed in funding. So I figured, when Trump won, that it was only a matter of time before they bit the dust, and it looks like my theory might be coming true. I mean, seriously, I can just imagine Hillary Clinton herself yelling at Sandra Kim, the head of the blog, "You had one job, you cunt, and you failed. You won't be getting another dime." It's really spectacular that this blog is now begging for table scraps from the feminist masses, considering how incredibly widely distributed they are and how many shares their articles generally got even just last year. They even had enough money to pay Riley fucking Dennis money to make YouTube videos about, well, whatever the fuck Riley Dennis talks about. I try not to think about it. It would have appeared even just 6 months ago that this blog was super popular and going strong. But no, Hillary Clinton loses, and then blammo, like clockwork, they are begging for $20,000 from their fans to save quote-unquote independent feminist media. And how much do you want to bet that the number will go up if they randomly happen to meet that goal? My friend Ryan, who does the channel Samizdat Broadcasts, made an excellent point, which is that people should start archiving every article of Everyday Feminisms that you can find, because pretty much all of them are completely awful, illogical propaganda madness, basically designed to rob readers of objective reasoning. In even just 10 years' time, we'll look back on this site and we could file it in a historical context of fourth wave intersectional feminist social justice brainwashing media or something, and it will look super interesting looking back on it. Seriously, the levels of insanity on this blog deserve a place in a museum in a section called The Social Justice Years. Drop me a comment, help me out on Patreon if you want to keep hearing my voice, and stay tuned.